Broken access control is one of the risks in the OWASP top 10 list. Broken access control, it is more towards geared towards the application security. I would like to first of all explain this vulnerability in the form of a narrative story. Then we will deep dive into what broken access control is. Then we will look at various risks and impacts of this vulnerability. Finally, we will see what are the preventative controls that can be put in place to mitigate this vulnerability. Let's go. Our story begins with a fictitious bank, ABC Bank Private Limited. They would like to expand their business. Senior management of the bank decided to launch a new web-based product to meet the customer needs. Bank's IT team embarks on building the product. The product is finally put into operations. The bank's monitoring team does 24/7 monitoring of the servers and applications. On a weekend, they observe someone has sent a lot of fabricated requests by manipulating the API URL. One of the URL was not protected, and hence the intruder was able to get access to the sensitive data. In a nutshell, this is one of the forms of broken access control. Broken access vulnerability is a security flaw that allows unauthorized users to gain access to restricted resources. Attackers exploit this vulnerability to bypass normal security controls and gains access to sensitive data or systems. The Open Web Application Security Project, or OWASP, lists broken access control as the number one critical web application security risk. Look at how the broken access control is exploited. In the URL manipulation exploit, the attacker examines a web application URL that is protected and has a wealth of sensitive information. Attacker then fabricates new requests by manipulating the URL parameters to bypass the security controls and to access the restricted resource. In the API exploitation, attackers potentially could exploit the API endpoints when they are not properly protected through the proper access controls. Brute force attacks can be used to exploit vulnerabilities in the authentication process by guessing the correct user login credentials. In the injection exploit, the attacker injects malicious code into a web application when the user inputs are not properly sanitized. In the session hijacking exploit, attacker uses the stolen session identifier to access the application and perform action as a normal user, such as accessing sensitive information. Let us now look at what are the impacts and risks around the broken access vulnerability. One of the most common and potentially damaging risks is data breaches. If an attacker is able to gain access to the sensitive data, they may be able to use this information for malicious purposes such as identity theft, fraud, so on and so forth. Another risk associated with the broken access control is compliance violation. Organizations subjected to regulatory requirements such as HIPAA or PCI DSS must ensure access controls comply with these regulations, or else huge fine is imposed. Finally, broken access controls can also lead to operational disruptions. When attackers can gain access to critical systems, they may be able to disable or damage them, leading to significant downtime and financial losses. Finally, we are going to talk about what kind of preventative controls that we can put in place to mitigate the broken access control vulnerabilities. Embrace security best practices by incorporating DevSecOps process into the SDLC pipeline. Grant users only the minimum permissions necessary to perform their tasks. This principle helps to limit the potential damage if an account is compromised. Thoroughly validate and sanitize all user supplied input to prevent malicious data from infiltrating your application. Make sure that secure coding practices are followed. Log the access violation with the exception message, which will be used by the monitoring team to flag any kind of alerts. Adopt a deny by default mentality both during the initial development and whenever a new functionality or resources are exposed by the application. Implement strong session management practices to protect user sessions from hijacking. Use secure session cookies and enforce session timeouts. Access control audits and reviews should be done regularly. These audits should be comprehensive and cover all aspects of access control system, including the roles and privileges assigned to each user, how access rights are granted and revoked, and the security measures in place to protect the access control system. How was the video? Did you like it? Please share your comments. Subscribe to learn more, and thank you so much for watching the video. Bye.